Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Merricks Garage. Today I'm bringing you guys an update on the square body Suburban. I've been choosing drivetrain options, or I've been kicking around drivetrain options in my head for a while, and today we're gonna dig into those and I'm gonna reach out to you guys for some suggestions. I'm open to ideas. I have an idea of what I want to do with it, but I want to see what you guys come up with too. If this is your first time to my channel, I want to say welcome and thank you for tuning in. Obviously, I am a lover of square bodies and trucks, camping, adventure, fabrication, family time, all of that kind of stuff. I put up a video a week. I've got about 160 videos in my library for you guys to take a look at. If that sounds like something you're into, click that subscribe button and let's go get it. Merrick's Garage. My love of square bodies began with the purchase of this guy in 1994. Yeah, this was the first vehicle that I purchased myself. It looks a lot different than it did when I got it. Obviously, I've done some modifications, which we're going to get into today. I'm going to give you guys a deep dive on what it is. I'm often getting asked about the engine and the transmission. So even though I've done it before in videos, I figured it was time for an update. So I'm going to give you guys a blast through on this truck so you can see what I've got in there. And that might inform some of the decisions I'm making for the K30 Burb. So which one do you guys want to start with first? That one? I think so. Let's start with the Suburban. So this is a square body Suburban. It is in stock trim right now. It has a small block Chevy 350 in it. It's got a 700 R4. It's got an NP 241 and it has half-ton axles. This thing is a dream. It is in such great shape. It's like a time capsule in here. It really is pretty fantastic. All builds start with good intentions. Well, at least that one did. My objective when I started building that truck 5-6 years ago was to build a truck that would take me and my family everywhere we wanted to go. It would allow us to camp. It would allow us to four-wheel. It would allow us to haul stuff. It would keep us safe, keep us dry, keep us warm, all of the above. And it has done all that stuff. We've taken this to the snow. We've taken it to Baja. We've taken it all over the Western United States. But 40-inch tires, no doors, well, half doors. It's not really the family vehicle that it once was. Enter the square body Suburban. I picked this up to basically fulfill what I was trying to do with the Blazer. I have 3 children, and as they have obviously grown, the Blazer has gotten smaller and smaller, and the amount of gear that I want to take has gotten more and more and larger and larger. This Suburban is an obvious choice to solve this dilemma. So I purchased this Suburban with the intention of doing to it what I've done to the Blazer, just on a more muted, family-friendly style. I envision the Suburban becoming something that we can take on a big, long road trip, something that will get fairly decent gas mileage for, carrying 5 people and all their stuff, something that is safe, something that is climate controlled, something that is comfortable, something that is reliable, and something that is kind of unique. So the Suburban checks all those boxes. Its current trim level, it just isn't reliable. It doesn't have the power it needs, and it can't really get out of its own way. Where does that leave me with this square body Suburban? What do I want to do with it? How do I want to make it unique? How do I want to make it a Merrick's Garage vehicle? I've settled on a diesel for my square body Suburban. Several reasons that we'll get to in a minute, but let's run through what I'm hoping to put in this guy and turn it into the big tow pig that I think it was born to be. Diesel, manual transmission, gear-driven 205 transfer case, 1-ton axles. Simple, reliable, bulletproof, fairly efficient, tons of power and torque. Yeah, it's a diesel, so it's going to be louder and it's going to have a little bit rougher idle. Not that bothered about it. Here's where it gets interesting. I think I want to do a Cummins 12 valve. So a 6BT. So they're inline 6, 5.9 liter, 12 valve Cummins, particularly like a 96. I want one that has the P pump. I don't want many electronics on it. I'm thinking the more simple I can keep this, the better. It would be really, really cool to build an all mechanical Suburban, meaning mechanical combustion. No spark control, no fuel injection, no PCM, just pure combustion driven by compression, which is how a diesel works. And that's why the Cummins is so attractive. It's basically wrote the book on reliability and power and simplicity. Behind that, I'm thinking a manual transmission, just because I enjoy driving a manual transmission, and you know, they make some really bomber manual transmissions. The new Venture 5600, the 6-speed, is on that list for me. And then obviously following it up behind, the 205. I'm not going to need ridiculously tall gears or ridiculously short gears, because it's not going to be doing the rock crawling that the Blazer does. So going with the 205 and getting the iron case, getting the gear driven ratios, is another way to increase reliability, remove moving parts, remove electronics, and get down to brass tacks, basic machinery. The axles I'm looking to get out of a military truck, much like I did this. The K30 Blazer got its axles out of a CUCV, a K30 CUCV. So you get a Dana 60 up front, you get a 14-bolt full float in the rear. The 14-bolt full float comes with a Detroit. The front axle came with a limited slip that I changed out, but it's the kingpin, it's the passenger side drop, it's everything that I look for in an axle, and that's what I want to put in that for a couple reasons. Reliability, they are some of the strongest axles out there, and parts interchangeability. If I'm towing this to a trailhead and I happen to break something on it, I can replace that, or vice versa. If something breaks on my Suburban, I can replace it off of parts robbed from the Blazer. So that's where I stand with the Suburban build. I want your guys' input on this. If I'm missing out on some cool engine powertrain combo, let me know. If you guys have a line on an engine for a good deal, or axles or transmission, let me know. I'm in the market. I want to start on this thing. I've been hampered by some space and neighbor issues, but we'll get into that later. Now, let's talk about the Blazer. I get a lot of questions on the Blazer, and I incorrectly assume that you guys have seen all the videos, which I know is not the case. So let's just blast through the Blazer real quick. I'll answer as many questions on it as I can, going from basically the top 5 questions I get. Tell me more about the engine. What seats are in there? What did you do for the floor? Is that a vinyl wrap? What size lift and tires? So let's start at the top and work our way down. Lift and tires, well, I don't really need to tell you, or I don't know what to tell you. The lift, it's about that much, I would guess. Tires are 40-inch tires, 1-ton axles. It's got the ORD link kit front and rear. It's got Bilstein coilovers, Bilstein bump stops, 14 inches of travel front and rear, the DIY 4x dash, odometer gauges, JB conversions, shifter, and slip yoke eliminator. These are seats out of an E46 M3, which just so happens to be one of those cars. These seats are phenomenal. I think they're made by Recaro, and I picked them up for $200. They're incredibly comfortable. They're probably not the safest seats for using off-road, but for daily driving and spending hours in them, they are great. I picked these up off Craigslist. The base, well, this is not anything adequate at all. This is all going to be redone in my new project of getting everything safer. As you can see, I am not immune to rust like anyone else. The K30 Blazer does have quite a bit of rust. But let's jump into the dash. Here you can see I've got water temperature, fuel, volts, GPS speedo, tach, trans temperature, clock, oil pressure, and oil temp. Moving down to here, these are where I keep all my switches. Front locker, cruise control, I've got a set, interior lights, front bumper, rear lights, rock lights. This is for my my dual battery setup. And this is for my trans cooler. This switch allows me to switch back and forth between my upper pan temperature and my body of the transmission temperature, so I can measure both. And over here, I've got two switches to turn off my fans. If I'm in traffic or parked next to someone and idling and they're really loud, I can turn it off. What else is in here that you guys would be interested in? These are the late model GM third row seats with the brackets that I build and sell. I don't know how many people know about these brackets, but I've been building them for a while, sold quite a few sets of them. If you are looking for late model GM third row split folding leather seatbelt and headrest seats, those are the ones to check out. You can find them on Craigslist. They're going to go from anywhere from like $200 to $500 roughly. And the brackets that I produce will allow them to clip and bolt straight into the truck in the factory locations. So that's in the back. Nothing much more up here. As you can see, wiring is always an issue for me. And then let's move to the engine, because that's where I get the most questions. It looks rather overwhelming at first, but after having spent thousands of hours underneath this hood, I can pretty much tell you where everything is, obviously. So let's just start at the top. This is an LQ9 out of a 2005 Cadillac ESV. It is their Vortec HO, so high output Vortec Max engine. The LQ9 is an iron block LS. So you've got the LQ9 and the LQ4, which are very similar with some minor compression changes and various other things. But basically, they're both 6 liters, iron blocks, truck motors. So I got the LQ9. That was what I chose. I wanted an iron block. I wanted a truck engine. I wanted low-end grunt and power and reliability. And the iron block LQ is awesome. I did change the intake. This intake is off of the Trailblazer SS. So with that, you bump up to a larger throttle body, larger injectors, and a larger intake. That combined with, I did springs, valve springs in the heads, changed push rods out and a bunch of other stuff, and then put a big tune on it. I am pushing, I would guess, probably around 450 horsepower. Oh, long tube headers also. And yeah, that is the power plant. The major changes that I have made to the accessories include a Mechman alternator. I have a PSC power steering pump and reservoir, and I have the Vintage Air AC setup. And yeah, that's it for the engine. Mated to the engine is a 4L65. It's actually the same transmission that was put behind this engine from the factory. The 4L65 is an upgrade to the 4L60. The 4L60 replaced the 700 R4. The main difference between the 4L60 and the 700 R4 are just, well, there aren't really any huge changes. It was pretty much just a name change. The 4L65 did introduce electronics. It introduced a improved sun shell. It improved the number of planetary gears, so it's a stronger, more robust transmission. It should be on anyone's short list who's looking to do a swap with these guys. The 4L80 is quite a bit longer, heavier, and has more parasitic loss out of it. And the strength that you get from the 4L80, while being fantastic, I don't know if it's really necessary. this transmission has given me zero issues. I've overheated it a bunch. I did have to get the heating and cooling dialed in, but I've towed quite a bit with it. Never really had any issues. So it is a great transmission. It's often overlooked because people want to go straight to the 4L80, but I would caution against that. Behind that is a 241C. So that came out of an 89 or 91 Suburban. So it has the VSS output, meaning that I can plug that directly into the PCM, and it works very nicely with the electronic controlled computer and engine. So LQ9, 4L65E, NP241 with a slip yoke eliminator on it. Everything runs nice, no codes, no trouble, decent mileage, great power, reliability, everything is there. It's a fantastic engine. In addition to being asked about the lift and size tires, I'm often asked about the vinyl wrap. It's a vinyl wrap. It's not a paint job. It's a giant sticker. I put it on a few years ago. There's a video on it for me installing it if you want to go check it out. It was relatively easy to do. It's a two-person job, but it has held up remarkably well to all the stuff I've put this thing through. I got it from metrorestyling.com. Reasonably priced. I think it cost like 500 bucks, and I did it myself. And then finally, the LMC floor. I do get quite a lot of people asking me about this, surprisingly. This is the floor, the polyvinyl floor that they offer. It was a pain in the neck to put down. I'm not gonna lie. It did not go down as well as I would have liked, but it has been up for years, and you can barely tell. It has held up really, really well. So I would highly recommend it. It's a good floor. Some of the holes weren't cut properly. It was a little wider in some areas than it should have been, but it was a long time ago that I put it in. It was probably one of the first upgrades I did to the truck when I started really going after it, and I've been very happy with it. So that is the floor, that's the wrap, tires, engine. We can get into more stuff later on, but I hope that answered the myriad of questions that I get with this guy. I also hope that sheds some light onto what I am looking to do with the square body Burb. Simplicity, reliability, efficiency, and something that's pretty cool. I hope that helped bring insight into what I am trying to accomplish with the K30 Burb. I value you guys' input. You guys know a lot more about this stuff than I do, and collectively we can build an awesome truck. So if you know of a power plant that I am not talking about, if you know of a combo that would look fantastic and work fantastic in here, let me know down below. Shoot me an email, drop me a comment. This is gonna be a crowdsourced build in many, many ways. I love these trucks. I can't wait to make this one awesome. If you have not seen the video when I picked it up, go click this link up here. This is the road trip my son and I took to get the truck, some of the adventures we had on the way back. I think you guys will dig it. It gives a little bit more detail on the square body Suburban. And in the meantime, click that subscribe button, and we'll see you next week. Merricks Garage.